come in, get off the bus or out of their cars as it was and go to work and then come out of the office and do the same and visit Subway for lunch. Like, there's so many other things that you can be doing during your day which will connect you with other people. And that's what we've been trying to do. And it's really great that Smells Farm. Yeah, go ahead.
So, what is your demographic for your organisation?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone. Like, all of the people. Every one of them. But it has to be relevant. So, we're not going to do anything in like Newland's a really good example at the moment in terms of an area that's got some really amazing development going on but doesn't have a demographic. Right? So Newland is relevant to people in the area, and that's how you define them. Right? Silo Park, as an example, like we say that's an area for everyone, but we know that the vast majority of people that come down there Friday, Saturday, Sunday are from the hill tribes. You know, like we're talking Ponsonby, Freeman's Bay, Grey Lynn, the hill tribes. Yeah. Take that one home. That's your take-home message for today. We call them the hill tribes. Essentially, anything up and around that Ponsonby, Great North Road kind of ridge, we know that that's the vast majority of people who come out. But that being said, like we ask people all the time where they're coming in from, and we get people from Waiuku travelling in on a Friday. And I talk about how much I hate cars and like alternative transport is key, and we're always trying to push the message that because we get 10,000 people at once, there ain't room for 10,000 cars. But if you're travelling from Waiuku, go hard, you can drive. You know, that's cool. Yeah, that's you travelling in from Waiuku.
Yeah.
Do you hit up Silo Park?
Yes.
Perfect. There you go. So bring your car, but bring a group. But what I mean to say is like we know that that's kind of the demographic of the people that come down, and as a result, because Silo Park was designated as a space for everyone, as a result, we program to deliver for different people. So, for example, 2 Degrees came down and they did that lighting up the bridge. Light the bridge 2 degrees, you choose a song and then the bridge lit up to the song and stuff. It was pretty cool. They did a Bollywood night because what they discovered was that people requesting songs through their website to try and get it on the bridge, they were getting this huge influx of people requesting all these like massive Bollywood numbers, like really huge Indian language pop music. And so we were working with them because they were basing it out of Silo Park, down here at what we call Silo Park Wharf, which is what's got the love locks on it now. You might have seen that. Anyway, so down here, and they were based, and so we did a Bollywood night, and Radio Tirana came on. We got some Bollywood dancers down there, and the whole vibe changed. It was like instead of this predominantly inner city, urban idealist crew that we're used to seeing, who are awesome, we love them, and they come in from Waiuku, and it's great. But we saw like that change of it just even on one occasion, and it's like specific, delivered, well-targeted programming can just bring anyone. So further, to come back to the point, you have to, in approaching all of these placemaking concepts, and we'll come to what placemaking is very shortly, I promise, you have to always consider who that community is, and you have to always consider their needs, and you can't ever just force something on anyone. Like, I'm sure you've all experienced the classic, like, transport hub advertising. And I love the transport hub advertising. It's like, I step off the train at Britomart, and I'm walking to work, and along the way I get given, like, a free shaver. And, like, someone stops me to hit me up about who I should be saving overseas, and all of these different things. And it's like, I'm not your target audience. But you don't know that. You have no idea who I am. You're just hopeful. It's like this mass catchment thing, and you're forcing something down someone else's throat. And while those messages may be really important to someone, if we just go, hey, everyone in this neighbourhood, there's this park, and we're doing a thing, and you have to come out, it's not going to work. We might get 2 people come down who are like super enthusiastic about what it is, but we haven't necessarily considered who lives in these houses in this area. What is this community? What are their needs? What are their desires? What are their cultural background? Which is super important in a city like Auckland. I mean, we're the largest Pacific nation in the world. And I don't mean just like Pacifica population. I mean, there's a reason why we have massive representation of all different cultures, is because we're an awesome place to live, and we're in the Pacific. Look at who surrounds the Pacific. They all live here, right? Yeah.
And so how do you know how to make like the perfect events? Can you make the perfect event, for these people?
Well, it depends. If the event is the tool being used, I wouldn't say that Fresh Concept, I'm not going to stand up here and be like, yeah, we did a perfect thing, we know how to do it, because that's not accurate, right? And that's not fair. But you just ask the question. Yeah.
Since you've built a pretty big community for Silo Park, do you guys still promote as much, or do you?
Yeah.
Sort of,
so we're talking 40,000 people on Facebook.
Yeah.
I say that because I work in social media.
How do you guys promote these events?
Well, it's interesting because in this case, we're really, really fortunate to have like quite a serious marketing budget. So Cider Park does actually make money, which is cool. For the most part, these things don't. But Cider Park does make money. A lot of that comes down to the fact that we can run full markets 3 days of the week. People who are selling in the market need to pay a store fee, all of those sort of things. And so a lot of that goes back into marketing. Marketing for this really we just treat it like a season at a theatre, if you will. So like we say, alright, here's our program for the cinema, here's our program for the markets, we do theme markets, stuff like that, and we just target who we think is going to be interested. Again, it comes down to that demographic. So like, if we're doing a Bollywood night, we'll be putting some advertising spend into Radio Tirana. And like, we want to do one of those really like glossy, dramatic Chinese language films, because they're awesome, right? We want to do one this season, we'll see how it comes off. But we'll be using all of the channels that we know of, again, through our vast community to get that messaging into the Chinese language community. Okay. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but yeah, essentially, yeah. Ooh.
You were talking about Bollywood. I mean,
Yeah.
how you noticed there were a lot of song requests, and that's why you have
Yeah.
the Bollywood event. What are the most used ways you use to try and distinguish one demographic from another?
You mean like, how do we identify who they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we personally don't involve ourselves too much in that sort of thing, because a lot of what we do is, like, our outcomes are quite intangible, in that sense that we go, hey, we want to make people happy. Can't really measure happiness so much without asking people, are you happy? Which is a loaded question. Are you happy? Yes. Do you need me to be? Yes.
Are there no tools that you use?
There are some. I mean, we use digital tools predominantly, like, I mean, social media platforms and things predominantly to get messaging out to the audience and to receive messaging back from the audience. So we know if something's hit the right mark because we get a whole lot of really positive feedback. We know if it hasn't because we get none, or worse, we get negative, right? People are really openly negative in Auckland, which is it's awesome. Like, I love it.
Haters.
I don't lose any sleep or anything, but it's good. I mean, to come back to your point though, tools we use, we survey, we ask questions, we talk to people, we gauge it. We use as many people as we can on the ground at an event to count heads, to ask questions, to recognise who's there, to see what's working, to see what isn't, and we take that to the next one. So while a lot of what I'm going to be talking, like a lot of what I've said so far, I will say, is quite like, I don't know, seemingly airy-fairy, like these real ethereal concepts, it still has to be measurable in some way. And like I say, it's kind of intangible. People's joy is quite hard to gauge. Like, wow, everybody felt a great sense of joy because, I don't know, I saw 8 people smiling out of 10. Like, that's not accurate. But there are some ways you can use, and I would suggest looking into, the way, I mean, it's just conversations, and conversations in 2015 are really easy to have. Like, I tweet you and you tweet me back. Conversation had, sort of, or started. And again, with Cider Park, it's easy. We've got 40,000 followers on Facebook because people love this, and so we can ask, and maybe sometimes talking promotion, we have to put money into that because otherwise not many people see it. But we'll ask the question: where do you come from? What are you into? What do you want to see this year? All of these they seem really simple conversations, topics, and really simple questions, but what we get back from them is what we really use and what we gauge. I'll blitz through because I'm taking ages. Hobsonville Point is a state-funded property development in a former Air Force defence base. It's awesome. I'm not sure if you've been out there, but we were brought on in the very early days of this. This in here is the Hobsonville Point Farmers Market, so they moved to a waterfront location which is kind of isolated from the rest of the development, and so we were brought on to deliver a whole lot of different ways in which this could be relevant to not only the local community but the wider community, despite the fact that it was like quite a drive away. We used a whole lot of installation, furniture, we created a whole suite of ways in which they can, ways in which they can engage without necessarily like changing their format. So that was like a huge consultancy, workshopping, talking to stall holders who are really interesting people. We do a lot of markets and stuff. Stall holders are crazy but awesome. Open Streets was an event that we helped facilitate for Auckland Transport. We had a month to turn it around, and we had nearly 2 kilometres of event space to fill. And part of the reason why that managed to work was because we have a whole lot of people that we know who can help. This archway was built by a guy that we work with a lot called Angus Muir. Angus Muir Design is his crew, and he made these arches. And they went all the way down and they designated different areas. We worked with a crew called Scribble AKL, who are now called Open Fort, who produce games, like analog games, anywhere for anyone. Just musicians, community groups, enormous number of community groups, like Bike Burbs was a huge one. So they are all about like bringing bikes into the burb. That's self-explanatory, but they were awesome. And all of these groups came in and helped us out, and it came off and people were happy. The people that shouldn't have been happy were happy, you know, like and I say that, okay, we always recognise in anything that we're doing, be it an event, be it a workshop, market, installation, whatever it is, there's your stakeholders, right? That's a word you will have used a whole lot of times, stakeholders. Well, you can bunch them up in some ways into groups like pro, anti. Affected, unaffected, directly related, indirectly related, part of the area, not part of the area, targeted, untargeted, all of these things, you can split them up. They don't have to be in binary like that, but we know that there's always going to be a group of people who, like you said, haters earlier, somebody said haters, yeah. So there's always going to be a group of haters in some way. That's not a technical term in that one, apart from recorded there, let's not write that down. There'll always be that group, and if you can reach that group, and if you can make that group happy, then awesome. The reason why we knew that there was going to be a group of sort of anti in this is because this was a really political event, and there's no other way around it. It was run by a council-controlled organisation, it cost quite a bit of money to put on, and it was all about the future view of Auckland as being less car dependent. So they closed a street for people, which is awesome, and I encourage, if you live in an area where you reckon you could pull it off, even if you don't necessarily have like authority to do so, if you can get people into the streets so cars aren't, it's great. But that meant closing down half of Quay Street, which is like a main arterial route, and so that's why I say we had some antis, but everybody seemed to be fairly happy with it. This is an example of how we work with local boards, so the Puke Tāpapa Manu o Te Kaitei, which was part of the Matariki Festival this year and last year, and so it's all about bringing the community together on almost no budget and creating something that the local community will come out for. In this one we were really lucky because it was a local board with a group that we were working with to pull it together. Local boards know their areas, and wherever you live, like, you can do anything if you just ask the local board the questions that we would normally ask the community, because they know who, it's their job, but they know who's in the area and they know what resonates and they know what their outcomes need to be and who they want to work with. This is Queen's Birthday on Queen's Wharf, another Waterfront Auckland, now Pānuku Development Auckland project. So that's a kilometre of bunting.
Wow.
Yeah, we got that made in Christchurch, that was cool.
Is that in the cloud?
That's in the cloud. So we turned the cloud into the UK of the South for the weekend of Queen's Birthday, which is awesome fun, and it's a free event, and we get 100,000 people come through over the course of the weekend. And the idea with that one is, this is a standalone event space that doesn't get used a whole lot for things that aren't kind of ticketed or trade related or like brand related, which is good. Like, I mean, the spin, I think it's called the spin, it's awesome. They do Les Mills pulls out a whole lot of spin bikes. You do a 24-hour spin cycle class essentially, and you raise money for charity, and it's awesome. But it also has brands written everywhere, which is who funds the event, so of course they have to be there. This one, the idea is just to celebrate a group of people, well no, to celebrate an area of the world to everyone. So we're not talking about this as being a celebration of Great Britain and England and Ireland and Wales and haggis and whiskey and all of those great things. This is an event that brings everybody out, no matter who they are. I mean, not all that good an image, but like demographically, we're not talking about people straight out of the UK. You know, this is everyone in Auckland comes out for a free event that brings people together. Again, it is an event though.
Do you have to work with security for events like that? Like,
Yeah.
there must be lots of...
Yeah. We learned very early on with Silo Park that in terms of security and rules and guidelines and fencing and all of those kind of things, there are a lot of things you have to work within in terms of like rules, particularly around, so Silo Park is unique in that we have a liquor license in a city centre like in a city centre park space and have done for the past 4 years, right? So you come down and you can buy a drink from the bar and sit down at the movie screen and drink a beer, which for the most part in like council controlled areas is unheard of, and that's because there are issues in this country around alcohol and liquor licensing, and I don't think we need to go into that, but there are rules you have to work within. But what we've learned as well is that if you treat people like they're not stupid and like they're grown-ups and like they have common sense, then they typically exhibit those things. And I know that sounds really condescending, but essentially what we like to say is if we treat people like adults, they act like it. So in this, you won't walk through there and see a whole lot of signs saying don't walk here, don't do this, don't do that, no entry, no this, no that, just like you won't inside a park. If there's an opportunity to talk to somebody about something they're doing or their behaviour or where they're trying to walk or whatever, that's what our security is there to do. So we have security who work literally in the stand and have a conversation with people if they want to know something. Their job is still definitely crowd control, but instead of being an obvious like imposing high-vis figure in the corner that's watching over you and making sure you don't do anything wrong and making people feel pressured and nervous and all of those things like they might do in a concert, we use security as much as we use ourselves in high-vis to just cruise around the area and make sure everybody knows what's on and what's what and how they're feeling, and we use those people as well to measure our successes and our failings and all of those things. So I'm not sure if that delivered the answer you're looking for. But yes, we work with security, we just don't work with security in the sense of the bullies, which is what you'll see a lot of people doing. Again, Matariki at Silo Park, so this is the only midwinter, well no, the only other time that we'll recreate Silo Park in summer is for Matariki because it's the largest indigenous festival in the country. We get 30,000 people come through the weekend, which I think puts us at 1 or 2 of the largest Matariki celebrations in the world. But the